A 5-year-old boy who has special needs has been handcuffed in Pennsylvania, and his mother is livid about it. Now, apparently there was an established action plan if her child had any type of temper tantrum in school. Now, he's known to have some temper tantrums because he has a few diagnoses, which we'll get to in just a second. But according to the Huffington Post, Connor, that's his name, Connor Ruiz, had a meltdown at Philadelphia Primary in upstate New York last Wednesday. School personnel told Ruiz, his mother, that Connor was jumping around, stabbing himself with pencils, and trying to choke himself by chewing on foam and crayons. Now, the school apparently got really desperate. They were trying to console him and comfort him and calm him down for about 2 hours. And then, instead of calling his parents, they decided to call state police. When a police official showed up, he apparently had a really difficult time calming Connor down as well. So naturally, the next thing to do would be to put him in handcuffs and also shackle him. Okay, so he has some issues. He's been diagnosed with a few different things, including attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. All three are also known as being a 5-year-old.
Yes. So I have a lot of different opinions on this story. But first, here's a kid that actually might have some of these things.
Yeah.
Now, normally, oppositional defiant disorder is a load of crap, okay? So I know some therapists will get mad at me. Yeah, you're opposing people because you're a 5-year-old, and that's what 5-year-olds do. I'm with Anna on that. Come on. We're calling it oppositional defiant disorder. Yeah, you're not listening to the parents. Yeah. You're not listening to the teachers. I mean, I think in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, whatever, you'd have been laughed out of the room. And I know things have gotten better since then, but I still think you should be laughed out of the room. Anyway, but this kid obviously has actual real issues. Like, you don't go around stabbing yourself with a pencil and trying to choke yourself,
right,
unless you got real issues, no matter what you call them, right? So now, should the cops have shackled him? I don't know.
So when I read this story, obviously I had, moments where I was conflicted because, look, what I care about more than anything is that this child doesn't harm himself. And so if he's choking himself or if he's stabbing himself with pencils, sometimes you got to go to desperate measures just to prevent this kid from harming himself. But at the same time, not only did they handcuff him, they shackled his legs. That's how far it went. And if they already had an established action plan, why didn't the school administrators follow that action plan and call his parents? His parents would have a better time or an easier time calming him down as opposed to state police. And I think that's the biggest issue here. Right now, the #1 option seems to be, let's go to the cops. Oh, a kid is acting up, let's go to the cops. The cops shouldn't be called to a situation like that. They should be the absolute last resort. But right now, they are the first resort, and that's a big issue.
Okay, so I largely agree with you, but with a huge caveat. So I'm with you. Obviously, they should have called the parents first. And that's what parents are saying, that we all agree, right? Cops should be a last resort, agreed, right? And every time there's a story about cops and the kid's okay, I breathe a sigh of relief, right? Overall, he's okay. Now, the parents are now flipping out and saying they're going to sue the school. They withdrew him from the school. They demand to have tutors that are paid for by, presumably, the school district, etc. And then they're going to put him into a private school. And then when he sees a cop now in the park, he runs. Well, the kid already has some issues. I don't want to minimize that. But the big caveat is, like, what happened was not a national emergency, okay? So the cops, once they are called, are in a tough position. If I'm in the shoes of the cops or the school administrator and I got a kid stabbing himself with pencils, I got to stop that.
I know.
I got to stop it in any way that I can, obviously without hurting the kid. The whole point is to save the kid, not to hurt the kid. And in this case, they didn't hurt the kid. Yeah, now it's a little weird and it's, problematic that they put the handcuffs and the leg shackles on him. They put him in the back of the car, but the cop sat with him in the back of the car.
Wow, is he not merciful?
Okay,
but here's another option, and it's a pretty simple one. So he's stabbing himself with pencils, right? You take the pencil away,
Wow.
right? He's eating foam to choke himself. All right, how about you give me that foam, right? He's messing around with crayons.
Come on, no, you're being unfair. Okay,
Am I
give
really
me the
being
pen back for a second. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know, like 5-year-olds, right?
Yeah.
5-year-olds are like, oh, you would like the pencil? Okay, well, here you go, officer, right? No, they're like, Washington, 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 and then all of a sudden, a little harder.
How hard could it possibly? I'm not saying beat him up or hit him, right? How hard is it to take a pencil away from a 5-year-old? Even if you have to
pretty hard.
All right, even if you have to do it forcefully, I don't believe that it's so hard that you can't do it. You're a freaking cop. You're a cop.
I know, but wait, they did take the pencil away, though. It's not like they didn't take it away. Okay, but then if they keep letting him run wild and he's stuffing things down his throat and trying to choke himself, somehow they've got to restrain the kid, right? So you might be right that this wasn't the best way to do it, right? But I view this as a 2, 3 out of 10 in terms of violations of what should have gone right. And I have a lot of sympathy for the guys because it's hard to control that situation.
But as you were saying all this, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because it has to do with restraining a kid with handcuffs. I thought about the parents who like to put leashes on their kids, right?
Oh, yeah, that's real.
Yeah,
so should we put them in jail?
Maybe. No, we shouldn't. But there has to be a better way than shackling a kid and putting him behind a cop car, because that sends a message to this kid that he is some sort of criminal, that he's a bad person, right? And he said that to his mom. His mom says that at the hospital, her son cried and hugged her, telling her he'd been arrested for being a bad guy.
I know, because he's a 5-year-old, and of course that's what he's going to think. But instead of going ballistic, and I'm being overly judgmental here, let me just preface it by saying that, and being so hypersensitive, oh my God, you turned my son into a bad guy. You can be like, hey, he's 5, he's gonna get beyond it. He's not even gonna remember it if you play it right. Okay, you don't get me wrong, you don't ignore it. You talk to him and like, hey, listen, Johnny, or in this case Connor, right? Connor, it's because you were stabbing yourself with a pencil and trying to choke yourself, right? You're not a bad guy. You're not a bad guy. But I can't have you doing that. They were trying to help you by stopping you from doing that. What would be better is if you never did that, okay? So I got a great idea. Here's how the cops don't show up next time. Don't stab yourself with a pencil, okay? Now you think like, oh, that's overly simplistic, but it's a 5-year-old. It's not, you have to be simplistic with a 5-year-old and explain things very, very clearly.
I remember being a 5-year-old, and of course this is just anecdotal evidence and my own experience. As a 5-year-old, nothing scared me more than the thought of a cop even knocking on our door, right? So if a
Turns out you were right.
if a cop had put me in handcuffs and shackled my legs and then put me in the back of a cop car, that would traumatize me. That's not something that I would just forget. So I think that you're underestimating how traumatic that experience is for a 5-year-old. Now, there are some things that we agree on. The kid was unruly. There has to be a better way to restrain him. But I just think that we resort to cops way too soon in issues and situations like this.